it's a little excerpt, so all you need to know is that my grandfather died. I know. So when my grandfather died, my family scattered his ashes in the Pacific Ocean. And, wait, I should probably read this, okay. All right, so one of my grandmother's friends took us out in her boat, and she is an octogenarian, tap dancing, false eyelash wearing woman, and she offered the use of her boat. So she was already drunk when we arrived at the port. And the first thing she said to me was, "I like your hair, it reminds me of the way the Niggers do it." And I could tell by the way she said it that it wasn't a compliment. But it was my grandfather's funeral, so I just said thanks, like it was a compliment. And I asked for a glass of whatever she was drinking. And then the whole day kind of went downhill from there. Everyone got revoltingly seasick. No one remembered to bring gloves or a scooper, so we were all scattering these ashes with our hands, and then, like, mental note, don't use this for food or anything. And by the end of the day, we all had these horrible sunburns on the back of our neck from wallowing overboard for 3 hours. Now, about 3 years after my grandfather died, my grandmother died, and it was a good death. She was in a recliner, and her cat was there, and her wine. And there was a Murder, She Wrote marathon rolling. And it was a good death for her. It was a good death. And per her request, they scattered her ashes out at sea as well. We opted not to go with the drunk racist, and instead we hired a boat, and they specialized in funerals at sea. But they also did weddings, and they did corporate bond-a-thons, and it said, wait, I have to remember because it's good. The brochure said, leave your boardroom behind, but they spelled board, B-O-R-E-D. Nailed it. So part of the funeral package was mimosas and mixed nuts, and they also provided this basket that you could put the ashes in, and there was a side dish of rose petals to kind of pretty up the remains. And when we got out to the spot, which was defined by the lack of crosswind, which was also in the brochure, they each gave us a moment with a scoop. So, see that? Yeah, this time I got a scoop. It was really nice. So we all solemnly like, okay, just remember the lifetime of someone I loved. Okay, scatter. And then when my cousin's turn came up, she did her scoop, and then she went in for a second scoop. And she put it in this plastic baggie that she had prepared, like a Ziploc. And she turned to the family and she said, "It's for my scrapbook." Where's my beer? Oh, okay. So then, so when I was, okay, stay with me. So when I was 19, I went on this horrible trip to Bavaria, and it was like this nonstop. All it was like winter white mouth-flavored sausage and a trip to Dachau. Yay, Dachau! And Dachau was predictably depressing, but there was these horriblenesses that were totally out of the blue that I did not prepare myself for. And one of them was in the middle of these horrifying photos of these unimaginable medical experiments that they ran. You guys aren't laughing. They're off to the side was this little ledge, and lovingly fanned out was this brochure that the townfolk of Dachau had printed, multiple colors. And it said, other sights to see in Dachau. And on the perimeter of the concentration camps, all these restaurants had cropped up, new ones, And there were signs everywhere that said, in English, of course, it said, hamburgers this way. Like, oh. And, but the thing that exploded my mind the most that day was one of my fellow tourists. And I never saw his face, but he had a camera strapped to his eyeball the whole time. And this is the moment that I want you guys to all in on. He just said, so we were looking at the crematorium. There it is. And he just said, I heard him say, for the benefit of the footage that he was collecting, he said, that's where they burned him up.